Hey there, let me ask you something. Have you ever laid in bed at night, your mind racing with a million thoughts, worrying about tomorrow's meeting, replaying that awkward conversation from 3 days ago, stressing about money, wondering if you made the right career choice? Yeah, me too. In fact, I used to live like that every single day. I'm Darius Foroux, and for most of my life, I thought I couldn't control my thoughts. I was happy one day, miserable the next. I got angry easily. I couldn't find solutions to simple problems in my career and relationships. My mind was pure chaos, just a confusing mess of positive, negative, sad, and happy thoughts all jumbled together. But here's what changed everything for me. I discovered that you can actually control what you think about, not your consciousness itself. Thoughts will always flow through your mind, but which thoughts you choose to focus on. This realization comes from William James, one of America's leading psychologists from the 1800s. At 27, James was suicidal and depressed, but he had a breakthrough after reading a French philosopher who said that free will is simply sustaining a thought because I choose to when I might have other thoughts. Think about that. You can choose one thought over another. That's powerful. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How to think straight, how to replace the chaos in your mind with clarity, and how to use your brain as the incredible tool it actually is. Here's the thing. We're born with the most miraculous tool in the known universe, the human brain, but nobody teaches us how to use it properly. We like to think we're rational, logical thinkers. We believe we sit in the driver's seat, making smart decisions based on facts and reason. But research shows that's not true at all. Scientists have identified over 100 cognitive biases, systematic thinking errors that mess up our judgments and decisions. We make choices based on gut feelings, emotions, and incomplete information far more often than we'd like to admit. Let me give you an example from my own life. When I moved to London from a small city in the Netherlands, I thought I had everything planned perfectly. I found an apartment, scheduled the move, brought my family over to help. Then, the day before moving, the landlady changed her mind. I panicked, big time. I spent hours feeling sorry for myself, blaming myself for being an idiot, completely spiraling out of control, all over a solvable problem. Looking back, my reaction was ridiculous, but in that moment, I wasn't thinking straight. I was stuck in a loop of useless thoughts, worry, stress, confusion, not knowing what to do. The solution? I booked an Airbnb. That's it. Problem solved in 5 minutes once I actually started thinking clearly instead of just panicking. This happens to all of us, all the time. We assume things that aren't true, we jump to conclusions, we let our minds run wild with worst-case scenarios. And here's the kicker, 99% of those thoughts are completely useless. So what makes a thought useful? Simple. A useful thought serves a practical purpose. It either helps you solve a problem or helps you understand knowledge you can apply to improve your life. Everything else? Just noise. Throughout history, great thinkers have understood the power of thoughts. Marcus Aurelius said, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." Socrates questioned everything, even himself. Descartes concluded, "I think, therefore I am." But my favorite perspective comes from pragmatism, a philosophy that says, "The true is that which works." This doesn't mean you should believe everything you hear. It means you should focus on what actually produces results in your life. Thoughts should serve a useful purpose. If they don't, they're useless. That's straight thinking. The quality of your thoughts determines the quality of your life, and your decisions are the result of your thoughts. So, if you want better results, you need better thoughts. It's really that simple. But staying focused on useful thinking takes daily practice. What a simple rule that eliminates 99% of useless thoughts? Here it is. Only think about things you can control. That's it. That one principle automatically filters out almost everything that clutters your mind. What can you control? Your desires, your actions, your words, your intentions. That's basically it. Everything else, the past, the future, other people's opinions, the weather, the economy, is outside your control. So why waste mental energy on it? Do you ever think about the past? Unless you're reflecting on a mistake to learn from it, thinking about the past serves no purpose. It's useless. Do you fantasize about the future? Also useless. The future hasn't happened yet. You can plan for it, sure, but dwelling on it? Waste of time. I've discovered there are really only two types of useful thoughts. First, thinking about how to solve problems. Life is full of unanswered questions. Put your brain to work figuring them out. Second, understanding knowledge. Take what you learn and think about how you can actually use it to improve your life, career, or relationships. That's it. You can ignore every other thought. If you're constantly thinking without a useful purpose, it's because you haven't trained your mind yet. You're stuck in your head. And trust me, staying in your head too long will drive you crazy every single time. Here's something uncomfortable. You can't trust your mind. I know, that sounds weird coming from someone telling you to control your thoughts, but hear me out. We're deeply illogical beings. We all have cognitive biases that distort our judgment. One of my favorites is the attentional bias, which proves that your life really is a result of your thoughts. It states that your perceptions are affected by your thoughts. If you have negative thoughts, you develop a negative perception of life. Then there's confirmation bias. We actively look for information that confirms what we already believe. We do everything possible to prove we're not wrong instead of actually looking at facts. The solution isn't gathering more knowledge or reading more books. The solution is adopting a pragmatic, neutral perspective. Stop making decisions based on beliefs, assumptions, or even what you think is obvious logic. There's no such thing as the best decision. There are only well-informed decisions and poorly informed decisions. So instead of making assumptions, look at facts. Ask yourself, does your product actually solve a problem, or do you just assume it does? Will you actually get that raise, or are you just hoping? Is that sale a done deal, or are you assuming your client will sign? Facts over assumptions. Always. I used to believe smart people were fast thinkers. You know, the people who think on their feet and always have a quick answer. So I tried to be like that. Every time someone asked me a question, I'd panic. Quick, quick, quick. Naturally, my quick answers sucked. Derek Sivers, one of my favorite thinkers, says he's a slow thinker. He argues that your first reaction is usually outdated. Either an answer you came up with long ago and now use instead of actually thinking, or a knee-jerk emotional response to something that happened years ago. Real thinking takes time. When Derek's email inbox became overwhelming, he was getting hundreds of quick 5-minute questions that added up to 8 hours a day. His first thought was to go completely off the grid, delete all email, disappear. But then he thought about it more carefully and came up with a better solution. He could remain reachable as long as he didn't try to answer every question immediately. See the difference? His first thought was impulsive. His second thought, after taking time to think, was much better. When someone asks you a question, it's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay to say, let me think about that and get back to you tomorrow. Taking time to think doesn't make you stupid. It makes you wise. The same goes for decisions. I used to say yes to speaking gigs, trips, and commitments without thinking them through. September, that's ages away. But when September arrived, I'd be in the middle of an important project regretting that quick yes from 6 months ago. Now, whenever someone asks me to commit to something, I say, please give me a day or two to think about it. That's all you need. Just a little time to actually think instead of reacting. For years, I thought life worked like this. A leads to B. If B equals C, then A leads to C. Straightforward, linear, predictable. I was wrong. I believed that getting a college degree meant I'd never have to worry about finding a job. I genuinely thought this until I was 26 years old. Then reality hit me hard. Nothing in life is guaranteed. You have to work hard to earn money, and making money has nothing to do with your degrees. I also thought achieving goals happened in a straight line. Want to start a business? Just work on it until you succeed. Simple, right? Wrong again. I had to take countless detours. I worked for other people. I started businesses that failed. I almost gave up multiple times. Understanding that life isn't linear changes everything. It helps you prepare backup plans and alternative options. It prevents you from getting discouraged when things don't go according to plan, because they never do. Here's another example. I wanted to invest in real estate, but living in expensive cities like London and Amsterdam made it impossible without huge capital. Instead of pressuring myself to make more money immediately, I looked elsewhere. I researched growing markets and ended up investing in my hometown, where prices were low and I knew people. 2 months after deciding to look elsewhere, I bought my first property. The point? There are multiple ways to achieve your goals. The path is rarely straight, and often, if everyone's doing one thing, that's a sign you probably shouldn't. Our brains can't process all the information in the world, so we're forced to filter it. In that filtering process, we develop mental shortcuts called heuristics. You know some of these already. Trial and error is one. Social proof, making decisions based on what others do, is another. Then there's familiarity, favoring things we know over new things. These shortcuts ease the mental load of making decisions, but they're far from practical. They often lead to unsatisfying outcomes. Here's what I do instead. I use this filter. Will the outcome of this decision change the way I live? Ask yourself that consistently, and you'll automatically filter out useless information. You'll only make decisions that actually impact your life. For example, conventional thinking says bigger cities bring bigger opportunities. That's why I moved to London. And yes, I found opportunities, but I also found bigger problems, higher costs, dirty air, and crowded spaces. Living in a big city didn't work for me. It negatively impacted how I lived. So I moved back to my small hometown. It's quiet. I know people there. I can work less, make more, and drive anywhere in 10 minutes. For most people, my lifestyle wouldn't work. They'd find it boring, and that's fine. Do what works for you, not what works in theory, not what works for other people, what actually works for you. Let me ask you a few questions. What are you good at? What are you bad at? How do you learn best? What are you passionate about? What do you dislike? In other words, who are you? For most of my life, I had no idea. And that lack of self-knowledge is why I made so many wrong decisions. I took jobs that didn't fit my values. I dated people who wanted completely different things from life. I chased goals that didn't match my strengths or desires. For example, one ex-girlfriend wanted to travel the world and live in different countries. I hate that idea. I want to stay close to family and friends. Having a home makes me happy. When you're with someone who has different core values, it's a zero-sum game. Somebody always loses. We broke up. Today, I know myself much better than I did 10 years ago. And step 2, the crucial part, is acting on that knowledge. Sometimes opportunities come my way and I feel like saying yes immediately. But I force myself to pause and ask, is this really me? Very often, the answer is no. Most things in life aren't for me. Most jobs, opportunities, countries, people, lifestyles, they're not aligned with who I am. And that's okay. It's about finding the things that are for you. And honestly, that's usually a very small list. Here's something that might sound strange. I don't like to think on an average day. Wait, what? Haven't I been telling you to think better this whole time? Yes, but here's the thing. Improve the quality of your thoughts so you improve the quality of your actions. Then let your actions take over. Always maintain this imbalance. Action greater than thinking. The best way to ensure you act more than you think? Build systems based on simple rules. Take exercise. I struggled with fitness for years. I was overweight and constantly playing mind games with myself. Should I run or go to the gym? I'll eat these chips and work out tomorrow. What days should I exercise? Too much useless thinking. So I created 5 simple rules. Exercise at least 30 minutes every day. Don't burn yourself out. Eat healthy. Don't consume more calories than you burn. Track what you eat and how much you exercise. Those rules form a system, and a system takes the thinking out of the equation. Now I only need to think when my system doesn't give me the results I want. Otherwise, I just follow the system. This applies to everything. Create systems for your work, your finances, your relationships. Build habits that eliminate the need for constant decision-making. The only time you think is when something isn't working and you need to adjust the system. Let me share my 5 money rules. These have freed me from constant money worries. 1.
Save 6 months' worth of living expenses. 2. Don't invest money you can't afford to lose. 3. Invest the rest in yourself and your skills. 4. Earn more money by providing more value. 5. Don't live to impress others. That's it. When I have enough money and savings to survive for 6 months, I stop thinking about money. If something goes wrong, I know I'll figure it out. I invest in myself constantly. I have no problem paying $3,000 for a laptop because it's a tool that helps me make money. I buy quality items that last instead of cheap things I'll need to replace. I don't buy things I don't need. I don't need the latest iPhone every year or $5,000 shoes. I like training myself to resist impulse purchases. It improves my self-discipline. Here's the key. Money is replaceable. When you run out, you can earn it back. You can't say the same about time. Don't spend too much time thinking about money. Build a simple system and move on.
The ultimate goal of all this? Inner calm. No matter what happens in life, no matter what you experience, your mind should stay calm under all circumstances. That's the prize. Mastery of the mind means you control your thoughts, not the other way around. Some people call it meditation. Others call it mindfulness. I don't care what you call it, just don't overcomplicate it. You don't need a $10,000 course. You don't need a yoga mat, special music, or a guru. Just sit down, observe your thoughts, and then let them go. That's all there is to it. I do this all the time. When I walk, when I exercise, when I write, when I'm waiting in line. I can always find peace inside my head, anytime, anywhere. You don't need a vacation, new shoes, or a drink to find calm. You don't need anything external. You can go within yourself whenever you want. How do I know this? Because I control my mind. I decide what it does. And so can you.
Let me leave you with one final story. William James, the psychologist I mentioned earlier, had a friend named Charles Sanders Peirce. Peirce was the actual founder of pragmatism, but he fell from grace after a scandal cost him his academic position. He lived in poverty for years, even sleeping on the streets of New York. Nobody helped him, except William James. In 1898, when James was at the peak of his career, he gave a famous lecture where he credited the entire philosophy of pragmatism to his forgotten friend Peirce. He didn't take credit for something he'd built on. He honored his friend instead. By doing this, James did something meaningful. He helped someone who needed it. Peirce gained respect and wrote several papers in his final years. William James once said, "The greatest use of a life is to spend it on something that will outlast it." Practically speaking, there's no point in doing something that outlasts you. You won't be there to see it anyway. But that's not the point. If we live with the idea that we should create useful things that matter to others, we end up spending our time on what actually makes a difference. When you do that, life automatically has meaning, not just for you, but for everyone. So here's what I want you to remember. You can control what you think about. Not every thought, but which thoughts you choose to focus on. Only think about things you can control. Filter out the useless 99%. Look at facts, not assumptions. Take your time to think. Don't trust your first impulse. Know yourself. Build systems that eliminate unnecessary thinking. Focus on action over analysis. And above all, find inner calm. Your mind is a tool. Learn to use it properly. Most of your thoughts have been useless. Mine were too, but you can change that starting today. Stop wasting mental energy on worry, regret, and things outside your control. Start spending your thoughts on solving problems and understanding knowledge you can actually use. Think straight, act decisively, live fully. That's all there is to it. If you found this summary valuable, I highly recommend getting the full book, Think Straight by Darius Foroux. What we've covered today is just the beginning. The complete book gives you all the essential information and techniques you need to master your thinking and transform your life. If this video helped you, please hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe to the channel for more book summaries like this. Your support helps us bring you more content. Now, go think straight.